You are not meant to do life alone. That's right. We're social and emotional creatures, just telling you, okay? But how do you get the real life support you need to navigate the real life events you're sailing? Support that actually understands what you're going through because they've been there, done that, and have the tiara. Since she was in high school, our guest has been advocating and building peer support groups, and you will love learning why she felt called to co found a digital health platform that expands access to peer support and group therapy, especially for people of low income, underrepresented populations, and people living in rural areas. Stay tuned for the Startup Life show. Let's glow, everyone, and let's dance a little, shall we? Hello and welcome to the Startup Life Show. I'm your host, Ande Lyons, 4 times founder and startup champion to founders around the world. And thank you for tuning into another delicious and inspirational conversation with an entrepreneur who found a way to help thousands of folks navigate the vicissitudes of life. And if you're watching this delicious conversation from YouTube, oh my gosh, it'd be so wonderful if you'd subscribed and tapped that bell icon so you receive an alert whenever I upload a new show. And for those of you who are tuning in, my wonderful listeners on the podcast, please subscribe, rate, review. Spotify makes it very easy, by the way, to review, rate, and all that. So I would be so grateful for your support there. And if you'd like to get a deep dive into whenever I launch a new show, a new episode, please join the Startup Life Meetup group. This way, you'll get the links to whether watching it on YouTube or via all the platforms for listening to this delicious conversation. I'm so grateful for your time and your presence. Let's dive into our wonderful guest because I know you're just as happy as I am to meet her. And this is the phenomenal Tamar Blue, right there. She's the founder and CEO of MentalHappy, a digital health platform that expands access to peer support and group therapy for underserved and under-resourced communities. And her passion for formulating mental health solutions began in high school when she started a peer support organization, Safety Ambassadors, providing social support to classmates experiencing bullying and other issues, which she experienced herself firsthand as a first-generation Haitian American. The program received funding, press, and recognition from the White House. What a wonderful outcome. That experience and her own journey overcoming anxiety and panic attacks have fueled her work in advocacy for the past 20 years. And listen, this is a smarty pants goddess. She has a dual degree in economics and sociology, and she has leveraged her lived experiences in a successful corporate career, taught herself UX, UI, and turned her passion for peer support, mental health, and co-founded MentalHappy. Let me bring you into the room and have you meet this phenomenal founder. Welcome to the show, Tamar Blue. Woo! Everybody, I
Thank
know you're
you.
cheering with me with your own kind of clapping. How are you, Tamar?
I am wonderful. Thank you so much, everyone, for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, I'm so happy to have you. And folks, guess what? In the background, you might hear Tamar's wonderful 17-month-old, delicious young boy, baby boy, which will all give us a sense of, yes, motherhood and founderhood often go together, right, Tamar?
Absolutely.
I know. And don't worry, we don't mind the noise here on the show. We have pets, we have kids, everything is fine, and we can still have a delicious conversation. I am so happy to have you here, and I'm so happy to learn more. Where are you hailing from right now? What part of the world are you in?
We're based in San Francisco, California.
That's great. And unlike the East Coast where I am, where we've been from fires, which you know fully well what that's like, I'm hoping
Yeah.
you're having a wonderful, clear and clean air day. So let's, Tamar, talk about your launch story. Because in high school, I mean, I'm always fascinated, how people get turned on to entrepreneurship. You clearly in high school, you wanted to launch Safety Ambassadors. What was that like? Like, what called you to do
Yeah,
that?
so we it's
Dada,
my
not
toddler.
mama, right? Everybody, it's
Right.
dada. That's just not fair.
I know it's not fair. I think it's an easier word to say.
I do.
Hopefully,
Well,
that's what
and
I
it's
say to make
smart.
myself feel better.
I know, and I also have to tell you, everybody knows my story. When I had my kids, the first words I taught them were, "Can I get that for you, mommy?"
Big mistake. Could have been, can I
Yeah.
get that for me?
Oh,
Good to just send them
so
all to Dada.
yeah.
No,
Well,
yeah,
in
so
high school
safety ambassadors was something that a couple of classmates and I decided to get together and do. Two of my other classmates approached me about doing it, and then somehow I kind of became the leader of the organization.
I love that. Keep your
Um,
I somehow became the leader of the
yeah, I
organization.
was like, I just thought I
Somehow.
was volunteering a little bit for this thing, and it just kind of snowballed into just a bigger and bigger impact and organization, just because of what it meant to students at the time who were feeling isolated.
And how did you help students with this organization? Because again, you're in high school and you're only going on your own lived experience of feeling left out, not belonging, getting bullied.
Yeah, um, I was part of a couple of clubs and organizations, so I kind of found my way.
Mhm.
And I just thought, well, if other students were able to have the opportunity to be connected to, another peer, maybe someone upperclassman, have someone to sit with at lunch,
Yeah.
someone to talk to, then maybe they can also find their way. Definitely the foundation of what we do at Mental Happy, we created this platform where people are able to find the support that they need in a particular life event that they're experiencing at the time.
Yeah.
And the groups are expert led. So they're not just peers alone in the community. There's someone who understands where you've been, what you're going through, but also has the expertise, the knowledge base, the licensures, the
Yeah.
certifications to really help you navigate that life situation with practical tips and information.
And I love that something fierce, especially when you're bringing someone who also knows how to facilitate. Because it's one thing to hang out with peers, but you can easily start having a group spiral, not in
Yeah,
the right direction either, right?
correct.
So
Yeah, yeah.
having someone who can rein you in and go, okay, let's kind of refocus the conversation here. That's
And someone
terrific.
who can also give you knowledge on what you could be doing day to day to make those impactful experiences and really change your
Yeah,
situation.
and it sounds like too that with the peer support, what's so wonderful about that is you can support each other in implementing, those changes in
Right.
life and sort of holding each other accountable. But let me go back to, when you were in high school, had you had any exposure to entrepreneurs growing up? Did you even know what it meant to like launch even a nonprofit, a group like the ambassadors?
Um, no, not at all. I didn't think I was doing anything entrepreneurial. I don't even think I really knew what that experience would be like or what it meant. Um, it just seemed like a worthy cause
Yeah.
to spend
And
my time doing. There was a lot of, unfortunately, we're still experiencing a lot of issues with like these mass shootings. And
yes.
at the time when I was in school, it was just kind of starting to be a thing. So we were, as students, looking and thinking about ways on how we can help reduce these incidences, how we can prevent it in our own school. So it wasn't really thought of as like an entrepreneurial journey. It was just, I think, just my innate ability to want to help and solve problems.
Okay, nailed it, everybody. Did you hear that? My innate ability and desire to help and people solve problems. That's what I wanted to come back to as well, right? I mean, you can say, I don't know, I just happened to become the leader. No, 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 no. A lot of times, those of us who step up and say yes, that is part of our being fully expressed, right?
Right. Mhm.
And I love that that happened. And how did this and what did this experience teach you? And how did it inform your education moving forward and your career as well?
It was the first time that a reporter had approached me to talk to me about anything. I remember one of the leaders at the school, one of the teachers, she said, "Hey, there's going to be a local reporter from, I think it was like the Palm Beach Post, to come in and interview you and ask you some questions." And I was like, "Isn't this something that she should be asking like one of the teachers or the principal?" And she was like, "No, she wants to talk to you." And I had to have my picture taken, and it was like, kind of my life, it was just a small indication of what my life would be kind of moving forward. You have to talk to a lot of people. You have to explain what you're doing, your why, and all those things. And having to do that as a nervous little 17-year-old for the first time. And I remember a couple of neighbors got a hold of the article and sent it to me, like mail, clipped it out and sent it to me. So it was like the first time that I realized, like, oh, okay. Um, I thought we were just doing something internally for the school or, a couple of dozen students, but it's impactful and
It
it's
is.
starting to pick up steam. So I think it allowed me to realize like, oh, I actually do have a lot of influence. And for the first time in my life, it made me realize like even not quite being an adult yet, I think I was like 16, 17 at the time. Um, I have the power to affect change and impact things in a
Oh,
meaningful way from my, small town of where I lived at the time.
I love that. You can have an impact, even if you are only 16 or 17 years old from a small
Yeah.
town in the middle of nowhere, perhaps. And also as a first generation Haitian American, there's bias along those lines as well. And still you're able to get out there and have a voice and stand tall. And you sounds like you said you got funding, press, and
Yeah.
recognition from the White House. How did
Yeah.
that happen?
Yeah, we got invited to an inauguration by I think by the end of that same school year or the start of the next. I don't know. This is a long time ago, so memory is a little fuzzy. First time I traveled by myself and got to meet other students
Oh.
across the United States who were doing really cool things in their high school and their communities. So it was nice. It was nice to kind of get that recognition. I think it was like one of a couple of awards that I really won. Probably it's, still among the most major in my life, other than getting into Y Combinator. I think that kind of topped it for me.
I think
Um,
but I think this is so important as we dive into what makes a person leave payroll and benefits behind. What experiences have they had, and in your case, what that you've had that gives you the confidence or at least the faith or even the desire because you want that experience again, that acknowledgement for helping others, that impact you had for helping others. It probably, titillated you in a way that made you want to say, "I want more of that."
Yeah, the program gave us a lot of freedom. And then once we got some funding for it, and in the next year, it was like, oh, great. Now the county and the state are kind of putting some dollars behind this. We can do a lot more. And the at the time, it was a lot of freedom because it was such a new thing, and that was exciting, right? Like anytime you're doing something and you get to shape it, mold it, whether you're an artist or a painter or a musician or there's freedom in that. And even if you are in a corporate space and you are given some type of new initiative, right? There is a such thing as entrepreneurship as
Yes.
well as entrepreneurship. So it's just really motivating to do something, and you kind of take it a little bit more seriously, right? Because I think sometimes the misconception is like entrepreneur is kind of free flowing and go with the flow, but there's a lot at stake, right? There's a lot of eyes on you. So, you get to make your own schedule. So you get to sleep
Right.
in and do all these things, but you kind of, stand up taller and you work a little harder. Everyone works hard, but there's
Yeah.
just so much more on the line when it's something that, you created and you'd be judged for it and measured by it.
Right, and are leading, and it's funny how folks think, "Oh, you can have it's your own life when you're an entrepreneur." Oh, heck no.
Mhm.
Your bosses become your employees, your investors,
Your
your
investors,
vendors,
right?
your
Right.
your
Your
customers.
customers.
You're
Yeah.
reporting to everybody.
You work for a lot more people than you thought you would in the beginning.
And so how was it that you chose to get a dual degree in economics and sociology? Was it because of this experience?
No, so I went into college for econ. By the time you're in like your third year, econ gets really hard. It's not the same econ that you learned in high school. It gets really complex, and the issues
Does.
become not just economical, not just you know,
There's
group
a lot of
oriented.
number crunching in economics,
Yeah,
folks. There's
but then there's
statistics.
also, yeah, there's a lot of statistics, and then it becomes, well, how are these groups, are impacted by decisions, and so it just started to kind of merge in with a lot of
Yeah.
sociology. So I started taking a couple of sociology classes because I was like, well, this is just slightly easier than econ and stats and all this other stuff, but then I started to see how the two really relate to each other and how it's very interdisciplinary. Um, and I went back to econ, but I love sociology so much because it was the study of like groups and how organizations move and how they function as a unit.
Yeah.
And I just accidentally ended up with.
No, see, life prepares you. This is why I asked that question,
It was a
Tamar.
happy accident, right? Because it's just, and it's very, most people will look back and be like, oh, what I learned in college or what I learned early on has nothing to do with what I'm doing. But it's funny how it really is very much aligned with what I do
Oh,
now.
yeah, it stood out like a spotlight for me when I
Mhm.
saw, oh, dual degree in economics and sociology, perfection for mental happy and what
Right,
you're
right.
building right here. So outstanding. And then you went to work in corporate, yes, for how many
Did
years?
uh Probably about 6 or 7 years
Yeah.
total before I
And
did entrepreneurship, maybe 8 years before I did
yes,
entrepreneurship.
which is great because folks, for example, there's that website building platform called Square, right?
Yeah.
Or is it Squarespace? Anyway,
Hmm.
he launched that in his maybe sophomore year in college, had
Hmm.
never been an employee. All right.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of good things that happen when you're an employee. You learn about what does work, what doesn't work in an organization.
Right.
So and so you had that inform you and help build you as well. When and why did you launch Mental Happy and who did you launch it with?
So I launched it with my co-founder Kwame,
Okay.
and I left the corporate world because, and I learned a ton. I tell everyone, definitely work a corporate job at some point in your experience, because not only is it just you learn how corporations function, but I was actually a branch manager. I was an operations manager as well. So I had the privilege of learning to manage the my branch's budget and having to understand balance sheets and P&Ls and having accounting meetings and things of that nature and financials. And that comes very handy when you understand those level of due diligences, when you have to also present financials to an investor and explain it, and how the maths, right? On how you're going to grow revenue. When I took over the branch, I was charged with growing the gross profit line by a lot, and understanding how the EBITDA affects the entire corporation, right? Like
Yep,
how my
earnings
branch's
before
EBITDA.
income and tax, folks.
Right, right. So it was just a lot of like language on the financial side
Yep.
that I didn't get from college, but I got real world experience through the job, and I had to manage and taking that gross profit line from just a couple $100,000 to, I think at the height when I left, I think it was closer to like $3 million. So that growth, that journey was really important in me being able to be financially and fiscally responsible for growing a business, growing the revenue,
And
and
then
being able to explain that to investors.
yes, and it gave you a lot more confidence to launch a business as well, I
Right.
imagine. So what
Yeah.
was that pivotal moment when you said, "Okay, I'm ready to leave the quote guaranteed paycheck and
Right.
benefits behind and
Uh,
launch this business?" Talk about that.
yeah, I think there was a side of me that still wanted the creativity piece,
Yeah.
and just being charged with making more of those product decisions, making more of the decisions I'm a huge customer experience type person. I love kind of interacting with customers, asking them questions, going through the onboarding process with them. So I wanted more of those type of close experiences. I wanted more hands on like manipulating the product. And, at the time that company was somebody else's baby, right? It was
That's
just
right.
somebody else's thing that they built. And I'm very grateful for what I learned there. But I just wanted to kind of strike out on my own. And plus, at the time in like 2006, there was just this huge boom. There was a second boom, right? Like there was the first .com boom, but then there was
Yes.
like the second boom of like SaaS boom
Yes.
in the 20s and in the early 2000, I'm sorry, in the early 2000s. And I really wanted to understand, like, okay, how can we better use the internet to like build products? I came from like a physical world, right? Like it was very face to face in what
Yeah.
I was doing in the corporate world, but then I wanted to understand like what it meant to build a software product where people, can interact with each other online, and it can scale a lot quicker because that was some of the issues I had in my corporate world. It's like we could be doing a lot of things that are a lot less manual. The
And-
aha is you still do a lot
Right.
of manual things in the software world and when you're starting, but just this
And
idea of building.
yeah, nobody in the corporate world is going to let you go, like give you free reign. You go tomorrow. That's it. Yeah, no, they're going to
Yeah.
keep you in your lane doing what they want
For
you to
good
do.
for a good reason, right? Like maybe, it changes the dynamic of things. And there are some companies that offer more flexibility, but
Yeah.
I wanted to do something different.
So when you and your co-founder, pulled everything together and launched, what year was that?
That was 2017. Yeah.
And so what did you learn from that? And did you go part-time? Did you go full on? Did you
I
side
actually
hustle?
I know I wish I think along the way it was like a mixture of things, but I full on quit. Um, and I took a break for a month. I mean, I've been working on like a W-2 type job, right? Like not selling lemonade on not raking leaves or anything like that, like a real W-2 job since I was like 13. And by that time, I was like 28, and I was like, I could use a little bit of a break before I do this next thing.
Excellent.
So I took like a month off, and then I was like, okay, now I have to get serious and figure out, what I can learn in the software space and UX and UI and all those things.
And how'd you find your co-founder? Because listeners, I gotta tell you, you think it's hard to find a mate in life?
Yeah,
Finding
we
a
were.
co-founder is not easy either.
Yeah, I was in a couple of different spaces. At the time, it was called, I think it's still called the Lab Miami. And I connected with a few people there, and someone made an intro to him and I. And it was just a match. He was living in the Bay Area at the time, and he was like, you have to come out to San Francisco. Like, this is where it's happening. This is kind of like the
And where were
vortex
you?
for tech. I was in Florida at the time.
Okay.
So he came to Florida, and then we worked for a little bit, and then we eventually made our move out to San Francisco once we got accepted into Y Combinator.
Yeah, so match made in heaven. How does that happen?
Yeah,
So, you were bringing what skill set versus his is it he?
yeah. He was the technical side, and I was like product business side.
Excellent. And he loved the idea of creating
Yep.
a SaaS platform
Right. Yep.
that would
And then
provide and help folks find, let me just bring this right up here, help folks and everyone. We are talking to the phenomenal co-founder, Tamar Blue from mentalhappy.com. They provide a platform so that you do not feel alone. And tomorrow we'll explain more about what we're looking at for listeners. We've got a slide up here on the video where
yeah,
you can see the landing page of the
yeah,
website. Talk about
yeah.
what happens. Somebody lands in this website. What do you hope their experience will be?
Yeah, so it's two parts with us. We create a platform where people who are experts can go online and create a support group based on any life event that they have expertise. They're all vetted professionals, so it could be anyone from a licensed person, maybe they're a mental health certified, maybe they're a peer support specialist, or maybe they're just even a survivor who's been advocating for a particular
Yeah.
life event or issue for a long time. But our back office team, will kind of review the application of that expert, and why they want to start the group. Um, the expert is responsible for everything on the platform, the content. They can set the pricing, whether it's free or however many dollars they want to charge. And we approve the group. And then on the flip side of that, people who are interested in joining that experts group, and the topics are pretty, wide range in terms of what we've seen on the platform. Everything from people trying to, find their way after divorce, or people who are suffering from chronic illness, to men's groups, to Black mental health and resources, and women's health, to just everything. I've seen even a really interesting group on like adult adoptees, like people who were adopted as children and are just still trying to unravel that trauma of adulthood. Abuse and violence survivors, as well, anxiety support. So,
Yeah, I'm going to
um,
bring this up full screen here, folks, just so you can see what this looks like anxiety support, life after divorce, parenting support. Oh my God, we all need that. Life
right,
stress, caregiver, living with disability, especially if it's very new to you. Men's
right,
support group. We need much more men's support group out there.
right,
My gosh,
right,
Black
for
health,
sure.
self-esteem. So these are
Hmm.
the ways this website, and here's, what happens when you join. Talk
Yep,
a little bit about this. And for those who are listening, we're looking at the website, and you can go to mentalhappy.com and
yep.
check it
And
out.
you'll
Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, and they'll go online. They can tell us a little bit about what they're looking for. They can search the site on open groups. If the group is private, they'll have to submit a request to the leader to join. But if
Mhm.
it's public, they're free to just kind of join the group. We really, on the Mental Happy side, monitor the platform just to make sure that people are safe. There's like no bots or a negative chatter,
Mhm.
or no one feels bullied on the platform. So we really work very hard to make sure it's a virtual safe space as possible, and you're able to join these groups where you're not just chatting on a platform. It's not just texting and chatting all day long, but they actually meet, and the groups meet anywhere from bi-weekly to weekly, and you're
Mhm.
able to stay on top of like your group session meetings. You're able to see the schedule. You can ask your leader very general questions that are
Yeah.
posted to the group. They're not your one-on-one therapist. We don't do one-on-one therapy on the platform. This is just really a platform where you're able to find like-minded people who are experiencing something similar
Right.
to you.
No, I
You're
think
able
this
to
is
find
wonderful.
encouragement,
Yep.
and you are able to not completely be anonymous, but you can ask anonymous questions if you want some level of privacy.
Excellent. And then it says more than affordable. What? How much does it cost? So if someone wanted to
Sometimes
join.
some groups on the platform are free. Like, you can find free groups on the platform, and some of them are as little as $5, $10. $20 to speak with someone who's like, a licensed professional,
Yeah.
or someone who's an expert who's been, advocating and teaching for, over 20 years. So
And and
much
and
more
pod,
in reach for
yeah, and
people who,
podcast
who
listeners,
really need it.
as you scroll down, you can see representation here, which is so important. I identify as a white woman over 60 with short blonde hair. Tamar, how do you identify?
I identify as a human. I actually even have it on my shirt here. But I'm definitely a person of color, who's lived experiences of a person of color in America, and understand that
Right.
provider fit in the health space is really difficult to
Really
find.
difficult.
So we wanted the platform, just even on the landing page, to show like, hey, we have a lot of diversity here. You'll be able to find any color, any association,
Yeah.
gender, binary, non-binary. We have all kinds of people represented, LGBTQ groups, all kind of people represented. But I wanted right off the bat to show like, hey, there's a lot of diversity that you'll be able to find here, because your life situation is diverse and it's unique. And we want you to feel that the moment you come to the page.
Ah, it's a phenomenal platform. You've made it very accessible for especially underrepresented and undersupported communities, population. So I love that, something
Definitely.
fierce.
Thank
And I
you.
I love some of the what looks like the B2B aspect of it. So this could be a benefit that is provided by major corporations in their to their employees as part of their employee benefits package, perhaps, or
Yeah, that's something that we are definitely working
Mhm.
towards, having payer providers and even larger employers at least provide some type of stipend
Yeah.
for people to be able to go online and find the support groups. Not to be misunderstood with employers like actually running support groups, because I think it'd be a little creepy
Oh,
to
no, no,
be
no, no, no.
in
That'd be
support
creepy.
groups with all your
Yeah.
with all your employees in one group. It doesn't give you the level of
No.
privacy that you're looking
Oh
for, but
God, no.
yeah, but definitely expanding reach as much as we can. I mean, I
Yeah.
think we don't realize in the United States alone, there's close to, 117 million people who live in rural areas where,
Absolutely.
it's a 100-mile drive to a behavioral center or to a therapist.
Right.
So having the platform online where you can meet and find people virtually is very important to us in the work that we're doing.
And folks, the loneliness epidemic is huge here in the US,
Right.
and it's
Yep.
due to this level of isolation that between
Yep.
social media and just the evolution of
Yep.
society has
Yep.
caused. And you can be in a big apartment building in downtown Manhattan and still feel so
So
isolated and
long.
alone,
Yeah.
even with loved ones around you, because your
Yeah.
experience is unique. If you're going through a difficult time, you need to be with other people and go, oh, girlfriend, I know what you're talking about. Or
Right.
especially men need to find some love and support with each
Yeah,
other
for sure.
so they can
Yeah.
have healthier experiences in life as
Yeah.
well. And anybody
Yeah.
who's facing any of life's challenges, mentalhappy.com, please go check it out. This is a phenomenal platform that you and your co founder have created. You got into a program called Y Combinator. And listeners, if you're not familiar in the startup space, there's opportunities for founders to really accelerate their learning and what I call the social capital by that they need by joining a and being accepted into an accelerator program. And there's all types of accelerator programs. I highly recommend if someone's launching a business to go check and see if they can't get into one because the leverage is huge. But
Yeah.
Y Combinator is really one of the gold standards, one of the
Yeah.
top, and most difficult to get accepted into
Right.
accelerator programs for startups. Please share your journey, Tamar,
Yeah.
and why you even wanted to apply, because don't they get a piece of the equity? Isn't it really
Yeah.
hard? And I also want to find out if it was worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, so Y Combinator definitely is, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, the gold standard for really just this ecosystem where people can share with one another, grow their business, and really just accelerate.
Yeah.
They really teach you. I think one of the founding things that I learned there is talk to your customers. It doesn't matter like how nervous you are, they want to hear from you. They already love your product. They want to help you make it better. Spend as much time, no matter how, fast or big your company grows, really talk to your customers. So it's amazing that I even see that in companies that have gone on, like the Airbnbs of the world to like, IPO, and they, CEOs are still, talking on, mentioning on their Twitter that, hey, had a great conversation with, customers, our users.
Right.
So that's something I definitely hold dear that I learned there. The experience was just really transformative for me. I really wanted to focus on being a technologist, really someone who understands how to leverage technology to help businesses grow, to really solve problems that people desperately need solved. And I didn't feel any judgment that I was coming in as a non-technical person. Like I didn't have a computer science degree. I didn't feel any judgment for being like a person of color or a woman. And I want to say that that's the first time in my life experience that I felt that way. So I think with the program, I think with Y Combinator, a lot of people of color, a lot of women may be hesitant to apply, but they really do a great job of the inclusivity. Everybody's experience is different. I'm just sharing what it was like for me and how transformative it was.
Excellent. Thank you. And in Y Combinator, do you give up a piece of equity for this experience with Y Combinator?
Yeah, you invite them to take a piece of your company, and they if they accept, you accept. It's an opportunity. You know,
Yeah.
you're sharing a piece of what you're doing, and in exchange for that support, people you can always go to and ask questions. People been there, done that before.
Yeah.
It's a really great support group to be a part of.
It is, folks. You know, sometimes it's like when you get into that university that always pays off, right? Just knowing having the alumni at your
Right.
disposal.
Yeah,
That's one
for
of the great
sure.
things. And let's talk about how you and your co-founder have raised capital. Have you brought in seed capital over the last
We
6
have,
years? And what was that
yeah,
experience like?
it was a unique experience because you know, as the CEO, you have to kind of go out and raise while everybody else is still kind of working on the product. So I was out fundraising really at the top of the pandemic. And it was where a lot more people were open to meeting virtually. So I wasn't running around the city or getting on a lot of flights to go meet investors, just kind of a virtual conversation. Many of them I met after vaccines and everything rolled out. And, you know, fundraising is something that you have to put in wholeheartedly, 100% of your time. And I'm always honored and humbled by the great caliber of investors that we have. One of our biggest backers, other than Y Combinator, is Northwestern Mutual, a corporation, AAA rated insurance company in the United States, long-standing history, invested in us, and just really having those type of partners that believe in you, that can really help you leverage resources. They've been able to open up a lot of doors for us. Um, Really means a lot. So these aren't just people handing you money or corporations handing you money. The people behind them are impactful as well too. And I've had even people who small check writers end up being very, very helpful in terms of maybe what they do in their work, connections
Right.
that they have. So that's why I love doing both. I love raising from our community, from our customers, from networks, and just helpful people that we meet and come across online. And I love and raising from traditional investors as well.
Right. And how did you navigate the bias? Because you have a double bias. You're female
Yeah. Yep.
and you're a person of color. And I don't
Yep.
know if your co-founder is a person of color as well.
Yep. Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
so,
It's
we'll leave it
definitely
for
a
white men, of
problem.
course, but
Yeah. Yeah, the funding gap is definitely a problem. I read online that it's gone down even
yeah,
more for people of color and for women in this last year and this year. So it's something that we have to keep pushing forward on. One of the things that I've uniquely done in kind of solving that problem, at least for ourselves, is I've been reaching out to more people of color. What I love about how we're raising now through WeFunder, it's part of a much larger venture raise that we're doing, but I wanted to open up a small allocation for people of color, for women to really be able to invest early in startups, because as much as there's a funding gap for women, people of color, there's also an opportunity gap for people of color and women and other disenfranchised groups to even have pre-IPO early investment
yeah,
opportunities. It's not something that they see. It's typically usually a rich white man's game where they're able to invest, tens of thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars. But what's great about WeFunder is the platform is that they've created a platform that democratizes investing and allows people who, maybe you're a smaller check writer, but now you have an opportunity to invest in something that is the future, big IPO down the line.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan. Let's bring up the slide. And listeners, we're looking at this wonderful slide for MentalHappy's WeFunder campaign. And here's the scope. You're going to help by investing. You can invest as little as $250. You can help build a world-class platform with Tamar and her co-founder. And I'm going to give you the link. The link will also be in the show notes. It's wefunder.com/mentalhappy. Okay. WeFunder, WeFunder.com/mentalhappy. Become a mental happy investor. I'm a huge fan because you can go and drop $250 on dinner. You take, your family out, and anybody has a drink, you get dessert. That's it, right? You throw in a good
Right.
tip. Why
Right.
not take that $250 and put it into a company like this and have the win? I mean, yes, it's still, there's some level of uncertainty, but you've gotten to know Tamar already. You already can be passionate about this opportunity. There's no guarantee when you're publicly trading, for crying out loud. The volatility, you can lose that all up and down in a day, anytime. I really think it's fun. Warren Buffett always talks about be an owner. WeFunder campaigns is how you can live vicariously too, through a startup's experience, and you get all the scoop. It's all SEC approved.
That's
What
true.
what would you like to talk about on your WeFunder campaign, Tamar? Now that I've done my
Yeah,
my bit.
they make it very easy. The legal documents that you'll read through are very easy to understand, so that you can understand the risk and reward type system. And the last time we did this a few years ago, when we were raising the last time, we maxed out pretty quickly on the campaign. And I do want to say you'll get investor updates, which is really great. You'll get to see the product before a lot of people. You'll get a lot of insider tips. You'll get to review and see our financials, how we're doing. So it's not just kind of a set it and forget it. You can be as much a part of the journey as you want through the updates.
The updates are wonderful, everybody. And again, it lets you
Yeah,
live
and
vicariously. Like, oh,
and I've
look what they
met
just did.
right, and I've met all kinds of investors. I've met investors in person who are like, "Hey, I'm in San Francisco," and then maybe they only invested like $1,000, $500. Like, I love meeting investors in person when they're in town here or when I'm traveling about. Because again, I want to get to know them. I want to understand, their network and how they can help us kind of continue to grow.
Right.
And MentalHappy is backed by the best. We're backed by Y Combinator. We're backed by
Mhm.
Northwestern Mutual, Shy Ventures, and some really other amazing
That's a
folks in
great group. Oh my
yeah
gosh.
in the industry. So
And
yeah,
folks, the reason,
hope you'll join us.
yeah, and the reason I'm a fan for this too is that so many founders, here's the bottom line. Less than 2% of capital, whether it's venture, it's probably even worse in the private
Mhm.
equity markets, everyone,
Right.
goes to anyone who is not white or has a penis. I'm sorry. It's true. It's just, it's really, really tough. And so when you think of that tiny little bit only going to women, people of color, then you think, how else am I going to raise capital? Well, when you go to these crowdfunding, they're called Reg C platforms, equity
Mhm.
crowdfunding platforms like WeFunder, like MentalHappy is doing, you have a much greater chance. A, B, you can bring in what's called non-accredited
Right.
investors. That means your family and friends can finally put money into your business through a third party. They don't want to hand that money to you, right? A lot of times it's
Right.
just awkward and doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
But now that you've got a third party where they can put the money into and cheer you on and know that it's regulated, that everything is
Yeah.
buttoned up, they're going to get the investor updates. I think it's
Yeah.
a terrific way to raise capital and get the lift you need as a startup.
Yeah, and the great thing about WeFunder this round is that it's led by an accredited investor. So, so someone has raised their hand to take on majority of the
That's
risk,
wonderful.
right?
Congratulations. Yay,
Yeah.
team mental
So
happy.
yeah, so Shy Ventures out of New York,
Yeah.
previous investor to us, doubled down and is leading this WeFunder round. So
Oh, that's so congratulations. I'm so
Yeah,
happy for you all. This is
yeah,
wonderful
thank
news.
you.
What's your goal with this round?
It's so this one is just because it's part of a very larger venture round. We didn't have that much allocation to set
Mhm.
aside, so I think this one is like only $130,000 set aside available.
That's
Last time we did 250,
Mhm.
so we only have a little less room this time around to let people in, but we still wanted to let people in, and I think we're at 100 and something. I think most of
Wow.
it is filled out. So there's not much left in
Yeah.
this round.
So, Tamara, as you look back on these last, 6 years, what stands out as one of the hairiest problems that you had to solve that you thought, "Oh my gosh, that's it. We're gonna have to pack up. We're done." Put a fork in it. It's cooked. What scared you the most? What kept you up at night the most, and how did you get on the other side of it?
I think transitioning from like being a kind of physical manual person to understanding how to translate that into software,
Yeah.
and making a ton of mistakes along the way, and just assumptions on what people want versus asking them. So um, I think some of the bigger problems came from like, oh, I guess I should just reach out to XYZ customer and see if they're willing to meet me for coffee or, get on a phone call with me to kind of solve this problem. Like, hey, I notice you buying into our product regularly and then maybe you stopped, what happened.
Mhm.
And sometimes, like, just talking to them, it's like very minor issues that you could easily solve. So I think anytime that we felt like we're in a lull, anything that has like slowed down, we just really kind of go back to that core base of
Right.
customers and figure out what we could be doing to meet their needs.
It's a wealth of information. It's like
Right.
digging for gold that's right there beneath the
Yeah.
surface. It's an outstanding strategy. So as you're looking over the next few years, what does success look like for you? Is it a feeling, an outcome? And how are you measuring that success? Are you using your measuring tape or someone else's?
So, because of what we do in bringing people together, success for us in the next couple of years looks like Mental Happy being in other countries and other languages.
Nice.
We're already starting to do a little bit of small beta in different countries. So, people gather everywhere. So seeing the platform in Japanese, seeing the platform in Spanish, other countries, across Africa, would be just tremendous success for us. And that's something we're aiming towards in the next 2 to 3 years here.
Ah, I can see it happening. I love it. And how has this entrepreneurship journey served you, both personally and professionally?
Well, professionally, I have grown a lot. I've grown
In
a
what ways?
ton.
Tell us how.
Um, I have learned what it means to be a little bit more confident when it comes to talking to people about what I'm doing, getting them excited about it, telling a good story, and really getting their buy-in. Right, like that's the bulk of my job is getting customer buy-in, getting investor buy-in, um, and really building something based on what I assumed was just what I wanted to build, but building something based on other people's needs is a totally different type of strength, right? Like you have to let go a lot of that ego and your assumptions, and really appeal to people. And the personal part is, um, I've just become just, I guess, more reassured in like who I am and who I'm not. I think when you are talking to a lot of people, it's great because you get a lot of exposure to conversations, ideas, advice. And when you're starting out, you're new, right? So you're not exactly sure what advice to take, who I should listen to. But personally, I've really learned how to navigate that and how to make those decisions and discern, is this something that feels true to me, or how much of it should I leave and or take of what the
Right.
person said. So just really a lot of self assurance.
Absolutely. You learn a lot about discernment as well. Oh, this is so
Mhm.
wonderful. I've loved learning about you. I love seeing all the dots, the threads that connected to bring you to where you are today. And it's just so exciting because you are bringing a platform that is so important for this current time, especially when people are
Yeah,
feeling that the loneliness level is huge among all populations and ages, folks,
yeah,
but especially in our younger folks, really suffering. And so
yeah,
you've brought a way for people to feel like they belong, that they can
yeah.
find the right answers and the guidance and the help that they need through mentalhappy.com. Any last words before I pop you in the green room and wrap up the show?
I just want to say thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for watching, listening. And I hope you will join the Mental Happy movement in some way, shape, or form, whether it's posting your really amazing, incredible work that you're doing through support groups so more people can find that work, whether it's joining a support group or partnering with us in other ways. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for sharing your wonderful startup story and your founder journey with us and all the different adventures you had that led you to this wonderful outcome to be building a platform that changes people's lives and enhances
Mhm.
them and helps heal them. So thank you, Tamar.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Oh my gosh, did we not learn so much from this wonderful founder? It's always great to see a fabulous female founder hitting it out of the park. But I also really loved all the different events that you could see clearly led her to be where you are today. And sometimes, right, you're going along in life going, why did I learn that? Why did that happen? I don't understand what this means. And then all of a sudden, when something comes all together for you, you're like, oh my gosh, it all makes sense now, right? But sometimes in the middle of it, it feels messy and you end up being very confused. So be sure to go to mentalhappy.com. Check out their wonderful support groups. If you're feeling called to be a facilitator, if you have that background, get on there, add a little income to your life through this particular platform while adding value to others' lives. And if you're going through a challenge right now where you need help, mentalhappy.com. Go check it out. All the links are in the show notes. And of course, if you want to get an alert whenever I post a new show, please join the Startup Life Meetup group. That way, you'll get all the links to tune in and find out who I'm talking to and find out how they left that paycheck and benefits behind and why they launched their business when there was no guarantee of any success whatsoever. In fact, there's a greater guarantee of financial ruin. So, but I always say, no matter what happens, you always win when you launch a business because it's the best personal development program out there, and all the skills you get are transferable. Okay, until next time, until we have another delicious conversation with a fab founder, I'm wishing you a delicious day everywhere you glow. Cheers, everyone from Boston. Mwah.